AT, you can't get any better than 70-0. It really can't. Can't get any better than scoring a touchdown in all 10 possessions.
Well, listen, that's what I was going to say. Who's this guy whining about the punter? If you score every single possession, I never played at the highest levels like that. But I've been watching this sport a while, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you score a touchdown on every single possession, I don't think the punter has a huge role on the team. I could be wrong, correct? I mean, I know there's some rule changes. Maybe I missed that one. I don't know, but I don't know. Tell me what I'm missing here, Phil.
Every game, Aaron, that I played in where our punter didn't step on the field, we won that game. So you're right on.
There you go. So maybe this was Sam Pittman's game plan all along. We spent all this time talking about Bobby Petrino. He said, just get rid of the punters. We got no choice but to score. It's brilliant. I love it.
That's funny. I've never heard of a perfect game in football. It happens in baseball rarely. That's what it was yesterday. I mean, if you shut the opponent out, they got within the shadow of the end zone maybe once.
Well, they had that touch. He stepped on the end line or he stepped on the sideline. That was a great play by them, kind of a backyard football play. But that was really the only time they threatened.
AT, they look faster, though, than last year. They opened up against FCS last year and averaged under 3 yards a carry against Western Carolina. That was a hint, even in a 56-13 win. They got 8.5 yards a carry yesterday. They basically did what they want. Like, if you're looking for something to take away from yesterday's game, it's that they did what they should have done with UAPB.
Well, and that's, of course, from my perspective on a national scale, I did obviously talk about the game on my show last night. And listen, the focus was Colorado and it was some of the other games. But it was funny because when you give credit to a team for winning 70-0, it's like, they only played Arkansas Pine Bluff. And it's like, but this is a personal thing of mine, is that when you schedule these games, it's the hope of having a performance like you had on Thursday night if you're the Arkansas Razorbacks. And so, ask NC State, which was struggling, ironically, with Western Carolina into the fourth quarter. If they would have if they would have taken 70-0 over, nervous energy going into the fourth quarter against Western Kentucky. Rutgers really didn't pull away until late against Howard in their game. They win, 44-7. But that was a game that was, 17-7 at halftime. And so, yes, do I think that do I think we're going to enter a season where Arkansas never has to punt again and scores on every single possession for the rest of the year? I'm not willing to cross that bridge just yet. But again, is that when you schedule these games, this is what you want the team to look like. That is exactly what they look like. And I think it's credit to the entire coaching staff for having them ready to play last night.
Aaron, you brought up that North Dakota State-Colorado game. I got my eyes on that. What do your eyes tell you about that quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, there? Are you impressed with him?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. It was funny. I obviously watched the game. I had a much different takeaway on that Colorado game than everybody else because I saw a lot of it's the exact same as last year and the O-line can't block and the D-line can't stop anybody. And it's like, the defense was not very good in the first half. I will readily admit that. But the second half, they largely shut them down. Now, they went into kind of prevent late in the game. They had a 2-possession lead. And then there was the weird play calling late in the game when they could have run out the clock. They decided to pass the ball deep. And it's like, by the way, there was the goofiest interception on the goal line. So, I mean, this should have really been a 2-score game. And that doesn't, again, it's like, well, a 2-score win over North Dakota State doesn't mean you're ready to play Alabama or Georgia next week. But I actually thought, listen, I think the wide receivers are as good as anybody in college football. I can't believe how good Travis Hunter, I mean, he was unbelievable last night. Shedeur, I think, is as talented as any quarterback in college football. And I actually thought the defense was much improved. I thought they really, in the second half, really kind of took away everything North Dakota State wanted to do. The one thing I will say about that team, the offensive line, is that, it's something that last year they gave up the second most sacks in college football, 56 sacks, which is crazy for a 12-game season. They only gave up one last night, but the concern would be late in the game when they wanted to run the ball to chew up the clock, they really weren't able to. And so that schedule is going to get much tougher starting next week with a trip to Nebraska, where Nebraska's defense was very good last year. They return a bunch of guys this year. But I wasn't as down on Colorado as it seemed like a lot of other people were. And I think they are going to be improved. But I will say I thought the defense was better than people gave it credit for. I thought the O-line was a bigger concern than maybe people were talking about after the game.
Well, I wasn't able to watch because I was spotting for Arkansas and UAPB, but I read where Hunter played 129 snaps.
Ooh.
I mean, that's
That's 3 games. Yeah,
I guess you kind of expect if he's going to play both sides of the ball. I just wonder how long can you play 129 snaps every week?
I don't have the answer to that, but he was unbelievable. I mean, he had 3 touchdown catches. One was kind of an in route, catches it, puts his foot down, spins, boom, he's gone. Second one in the red zone to take the lead, and then the third one, Phil. If you haven't seen the highlights, I mean, the defensive back committed about 7 different pass interferences on the play, and he kind of caught the ball. I don't even know how he caught the ball because I think his head was being pulled in another direction. And I'll tell you, I'm not scouting expert guru guy, but I think there's going to be, if he keeps playing like he did last night, I think there's going to be a conversation about, is this a guy that maybe should be considering a future in the NFL at wide receiver? Again, I'm not an expert, but I see, Brandon Ayuk just got out, $76 million guaranteed or something like that, off of his rookie contract. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb just got paid a few days ago as well. So I don't know if we're there just yet, but I would not be surprised if that is a conversation that starts to emerge over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks if he keeps playing that way.
Yeah, Phil, it was a big boy catch that when he had on there. I mean, it was a strong hands catch. It's what you want. Hey, Aaron, I was looking at some more games that are coming up, and one that caught my eye that I guess a lot of people will probably be interested in is that Notre Dame at A&M game. A&M's my surprise team. I think defensively, I mean, they have talent. I think defensively with Elko, they're going to be really, really good. And then Colin Klein, their OC from Kansas State, I love him. How do you see this Notre Dame A&M? Does Notre Dame have the athletes to match up at Kyle Field?
It's going to be really interesting. Really, what's really interesting is a couple things. Is first of all, like you said, Mike Elko coming in. I think we're looking at a situation where, listen, I just think the program's going to be more buttoned up. I mean, there was just some real, they just weren't good in big spots. They were fine if they were a 25-point favorite, whatever. We know about the past. So that's one. But two, I think what's kind of interesting about this game, I haven't really heard many people talk about it. You have 2 defensive head coaches in Freeman and Elko. You have 2 quarterbacks that are coming off of major season-ending injuries. Riley Leonard wasn't even able to play in the spring, unfortunately. And so that's what I'm kind of curious about is I think, do both schools try to kind of establish a line of scrimmage? And then lastly, I'll say this, and I think this is just something to watch big picture. I'm fascinated by the helmet communication stuff, especially on the road, because if you watch that Georgia Tech game last week, Haynes King playing on a neutral field in Dublin seemed to be having trouble hearing over the crowd noise. And so whether it's a Riley Leonard for Notre Dame at Texas A&M, whether it's a Cam Ward for Miami playing at Florida, and then obviously we're going to get to some big true home road games next week. I'm just curious to see how these quarterbacks handle that because it's obviously a whole new element that they've never played with before. It's never been a factor before, and it seemed like it was a factor for Haynes King last week.
You mentioned really it was an entertaining game in Dublin, but obviously an outcome that I didn't see coming. I'm not sure how many people did see that coming. Matt's posed this question quite a bit over the week. This is a huge game for the ACC this weekend, Clemson against Georgia. Even in terms of, win and a loss is important, but also just not getting your ass kicked if you're the Clemson Tigers. That's a big thing for the ACC. You think the ACC might be a one-bid league this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in play. By the way, I just mentioned Miami, a team that I think a lot of people really like in the ACC, playing at Florida, and Florida's kind of a mess. And I think even a good season for Florida could be, I think a good season for Florida is 6-6. So if Miami emerges as one of the top teams in the ACC and they lost at Florida, I don't think it's going to carry on well. And so to that question, Phil, I think that's where losses like those are going to matter down the stretch, is that, I have kind of a half-baked theory. We won't know until it happens. I think the committee's going to try and find a way to either get a second Big 12 or ACC team in. I don't think they want it to appear as though it's the SEC Big Ten Invitational, even though it certainly is, and that's where most of the power in this sport is. But I just bring it up because that's where the conversation gets interesting. If Clemson gets boat raced tomorrow and they win the ACC, they're still in the college football playoff. But to your point, if we start comparing resumes, and let's say, Clemson finishes 10-2, but isn't the ACC champ, but they lose, by 30 tomorrow, and then Ole Miss is 10-2, plays Georgia, and Ole Miss is, they lose by a field goal to Georgia. Those are things that are going to matter. And so I'm with you, and I obviously haven't had a chance to listen to your guys' show this week, but I think it's a great point by Matt that, we can say that any of these individual games don't matter. But what I will say really quick, and I know I'm going long on this answer, I think we all think, 12 teams, there's just all this space for everybody to get in. I think games like this matter. I think if Notre Dame gets embarrassed at Texas A&M, you look at their schedule, they don't have a lot of chances for big wins. I think if LSU loses to USC, it's easy to see a scenario where they take 3-4 losses this year and they're probably out. So again, I think we all just think, 12 teams, like everybody gets in, and it's like these are games that are going to carry weight all season long.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.